Hey everybody, so I said that I was going to do a video kind of like introducing this new series of videos that I want to do, and I think this is going to be my focus for this channel. Um, so it's going to be a food vlogging channel, a sort of like a food diary. I want to put like not just what I've eaten, but how I'm feeling, both emotionally and like the stress factors of the day, what the day is like, what my fatigue level is, that kind of thing. And the reason I'm doing this is because a lot of times so I have a lot of chronic health issues. So let me just start with that. So the first one that I found out that I had back in 2000 and probably 11, late 2011, early 2012, I want to say. I found out that I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease where your body attacks the thyroid. And this can cause all kinds of symptoms. I mean, I can put in the description below a little bit about each one of the things that I deal with so that you can kind of look it up and see if you're unfamiliar with it. Maybe you're trying to figure out what you are dealing with and some of the symptoms that I talk about, or some of the things that I talk about seem to relate to what you're going through. So I'm just going to go through those things. So the thyroid affects a lot of things. The level of energy, it can affect your menstrual period. It can affect whether or not you have a heavy flow, or whether you're irregular, or whether you're having more, the flow is constant, like you're constantly throughout the month. It can affect pain in general, soreness. There's just so many things that the thyroid affects. And like I said, I'll put some information below. And Hashimoto's, so there is hypothyroid and there's hyperthyroid. And hyperthyroid, you tend to lose weight. You're sensitive to cold. Hair falls out, gets brittle, that kind of thing. Hypo is where people gain weight. They're more sensitive to heat. Those are like some of the signs. And the hair, and then the eyebrows. Your eyebrows kind of fall out at the end, like at the very, what do you call it? Like right at the end here of your eyebrow. There are all kinds of symptoms, like I said. With Hashimoto's, you bounce back and forth. So you tend to be mostly hypo. That tends to be really what most people with Hashimoto's have. But the hormone levels are up and down. So you could be hypo one day and hyper the next, or you could be hypo for a while and then all of a sudden flip to hyper. Hyper has its own set of problems. But like I said, Hashimoto's is both. So you're going to have hypo and hyper, but you a lot of times tend to show a lot of hypo symptoms. Whereas I feel like I get a mix of both symptoms. I feel that when my thyroid is out of control, I'm usually gaining weight. That's number one, a big deal. And no matter what I'm eating, I'm gaining weight. So I'm still learning like all the ways that the thyroid is affecting my body. And this is, again, one of the reasons that I want to do this food diary vlog. So that's one issue. So starting around 2000, I would say around 2000, I started having some issues that we thought was my gallbladder. And it was when I first was pregnant. It was my very first pregnancy. And I had some kind of an attack in my stomach. The pain was horrible. I threw up. Then I was shaky after. It was awful. And it only happened once. And then it happened again on my second pregnancy. And my last pregnancy, my fourth child, is when it just seemed to really escalate and get really bad right after she was born. And then they wanted to remove my gallbladder, but they never really could pinpoint that it was the gallbladder. And I had a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a newborn. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to go have my gallbladder removed and go through this surgery when I have all these babies to take care of. So I just decided to not do it, since especially there was no proof that it was my gallbladder. Well, in 2000, so that was around 2007, and in 2010, it really, again, flared up, And whatever it was just bad. I was getting attack after an attack after an attack. And my daughter was older by then, 3 years old. My kids were all in school. So I was like, okay. They wanted to remove my gallbladder again. And they felt like they saw like some sludge, but they never did see stones. So I went ahead and let them remove my gallbladder. And when that happened, I did have some relief for a little while. But around 2013, I started having issues again. I got a really bad attack, which felt like all the other previous attacks, but I just managed to get to the ER, and they took my blood work and it showed pancreatitis. And it's so weird because my levels were, the pancreas enzymes were so high, over 1,000. And like literally that was like 11 o'clock at night or something. And then by 5 o'clock in the morning, 4, 5, 6 hours later, it dropped right back down to normal. And so they couldn't figure out why, what had caused it. And to this day, I just don't know. I don't know what causes these attacks all the time. And I'll go through, it seems like a little bit of a period, a couple of years sometimes, where I'm fine, and then all of a sudden it just hits. Well, starting in 2013 is like my health just went downhill. So at some point, they figured out that I had something called sphincter of Oddi dysfunction. And it's your liver duct. It kind of gets filled with sludge, and sometimes you can have stones there, and it contracts and doesn't open like it should to allow the bile to pass through into the your jejunum, whatever, to get rid of it. And so they had to cut that and open that a little bit, but I had to go through all kinds of testing and all kinds of doctors before we figured out that that's what it was. That helped for a little while, for about 9 months, and then it started up again. So I had to go back to the doctor. They cut again. I ended up in the hospital for 8 days after that. Anyway, sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, some doctors will say once they've cut you, you're cured, but reality, you're not, because scar tissue builds back up and then it just becomes constricted again. So to me, there's really no cure for sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, except that you constantly go in and have it cut, but that is if a doctor will continue to do that. So there's like Facebook support groups that I found that a lot of these people suffer from this SOD, and kind of what they did. Just nobody has been able to figure out how to live with it successfully without pain. Then I found, so in the midst of all this, the doctors kept telling me, it's not your sphincter because we cut it. I was still having pain constantly, to the point where I couldn't eat anything without pain. So I started dropping weight. All I could barely do was drink water, and even that would cause pain. So I finally got to a doctor who did a test. She did a gastric emptying test. Well, I guess that was that later, a little bit later on, I think I did the gastric. But she did this manometry testing where they test your esophagus, and they test like how active it is. And so when you are in between eating, or even in between swallowing, like say you swallow something, as soon as you're done eating, your esophagus is supposed to come to a complete rest before you swallow, and then it moves a little bit, whatever that is. And then when you eat, it works a little bit more, and then it relaxes. So every time you're eating and swallowing, it's working, to move that food down into your stomach. Well, during this time, I noticed like a hoarseness in my voice. When I would talk for a certain amount of time, I would lose my voice. And I always thought it was my thyroid, because that is a thyroid symptom as well. But it's also a sign of something called jackhammer esophagus. And once they did the manometry testing and found that my esophagus does not rest, like it spasms a lot. And the spasms are super strong, and that's where I'm getting a lot of chest pain. Now I can actually pinpoint, yes, this is my esophagus. This pain that I'm getting right now is my esophagus. Or I can say, okay, this pain is not from the esophagus. This is, to do with something else. So we found that out. I take a medication. It's not curable. You just have to take medication to stop the spasms, to slow down the spasms, and to help with chest pain. You're not really solving the problem. We don't really know why my esophagus does this. And they have to go in and stretch the esophagus, because at the very bottom where it opens into your stomach, which is that same pain area with a gallbladder or a lot of other things, that's the opening of your esophagus, and the food goes down into the stomach. Well, mine gets very tight and tense. And so when I notice trouble swallowing, usually my esophagus is very inflamed, and just, well, we don't know why. We can't figure out why it's inflamed. I don't know if autoimmune can attack the esophagus, but that's what I'm thinking is happening in my body. I really believe that I'm having a lot of autoimmune issues. Anyway, so that's another thing I'm living with. So Hashimoto's, sphincter of Oddi dysfunction, and jackhammer esophagus. Then we did, I still have a lot of stomach problems, and I always have chronic gastritis. My stomach is always inflamed, and we don't really know why that is either. So we were doing some testing. We did a gastric emptying test, which tests for gastroparesis. And what it showed was that I may have the beginning stages of gastroparesis, because when the first hour after I eat, my food does not digest where it's supposed to. So they test you, like, in the first hour, you should have gotten rid of, like, there should be 90% of the food, should be 90% of the food, 10% of the food is digested. And mine was way below that. So that first hour after I eat, which I do notice that right after I eat, and then usually it'll settle down, it'll relax a little within a couple of hours. But there are times when I could eat something in the morning and be full all day, as if I overstuff myself. That's a sign of gastroparesis. So that's another thing that I'm living with, is just this gastroparesis, which is not as severe as some people have it. So I don't have exactly the severity of some people, but I do have it, and I am suffering from the effects of that. Another thing that we have figured out is that it looks like I may have possible lupus. And a lot of times when you have Hashimoto's, you have another autoimmune disease. And we are thinking that it may be lupus. So I'm being treated for lupus. I've been treated for the last couple months for lupus. If it is lupus, we don't really know. We're not really. I don't really know what. Typically, the lupus attacks your kidneys and I think your liver. But I feel like whatever is going on, it's attacking other things. It's attacking my stomach. It's attacking my esophagus. It's attacking, just my organs in general, my pancreas. So, and I'm also noticing, usually when you get chronic pancreatitis or something like that, which I have suffered from pancreatitis more than once, to the point that I could say that it was chronic pancreatitis. It's not always severe, but most of the time when I do suffer from it, it is severe. That can affect the pancreas. It kills the pancreas. Eventually your issue with sugar will come up, insulin and all that. I don't have that problem yet, but I have been noticing a little more of that. Issues of just a few little things that may be a sign of that coming, and I have to be careful because I'm 43 years old anyway. My parents, my mother and her sisters all had diabetes at, on late onset. So it's like diabetes 1, I think, or diabetes 2, I can't remember. But it's the one that comes, later in life. And most likely it can be controlled by diet. So another thing on the side is IBS. So I do suffer from IBS. So all of these issues can trigger IBS. And I feel like IBS can trigger all these other issues. But the thyroid can trigger all of it. Like it affects your digestive system because it sends the hormones to digest and to let your body know what to do. And it's not doing its job all the time. And no matter what I do, I take a medication for it, but it still acts up. And there are times when I need to increase the dose. So needless to say, those are all my conditions and why I want to do this food diary. And I want to track how I'm feeling how I'm able to eat, how often do I have good days, how often am I having bad days, and how are those affecting my digestive system. So all of that I want to do. So I'm going to put this video out just so that you kind of understand why I'm starting this series or this channel. Now that I know the direction that I want to go, I'm kind of looking forward to starting doing this, because I've been wanting to vlog for a long time, but now I just wasn't sure exactly what to vlog. Like, really what, I mean, I knew I needed to do something with my health wise, but I wasn't sure what I should do. And then all of a sudden it hit me like, I'm horrible at writing it down. I'm horrible at remembering to put it in an app, but I could definitely video it. And I think it's a great idea. I may not always video when my kids are home. They don't really want to be in videos. So what I might do is just like, you know, you may see like the later evening, or I may update it the next morning, say what I ate that night, if for some reason I don't find the time to vlog it. So I'm going to vlog it morning, lunch, dinner, and then in between, like how I'm feeling. When I wake up in the morning, how am I feeling? When I went to bed the night before, what did I eat? What were the snacks that I ate? And how did I feel the next morning, you know, with that? And sometimes I'll feel okay when I wake up. And then when I get up and start moving around, I get really sick. I have days where I'm just sick the entire day. I can't get out of bed. So I think this will be a great way for me to be able to kind of look at how I'm feeling and how it's affecting, how food is affecting it, and how food plays a part in all of these issues that I have, and if there's any way that I can control it. I would like to eat healthier. I would like to change my diet. I have a large family. I don't have the money to just like buy all these special foods. And honestly, whenever I've done that, I'll be able to eat the food for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden I can't eat it anymore. All of a sudden I don't feel well anymore. And I know with like gastroparesis that happens a lot, where you're able to eat certain foods, but then all of a sudden that same food that you were eating just fine, all of a sudden it's causing you to feel sick. But it's in conjunction usually with other triggers. So things like stress, things like whether you are emotionally like on a high, whether it's angry or, I don't know, sad, whatever, like they all can play a part in affecting the food when you take it in. So that's why I want to do this. So long story short, this is how I want to go. This is the direction I want to go for this channel. So I hope that you guys will subscribe and, you know, follow the videos. Definitely give the videos a like if you felt like it's helping you, if you liked the video, if there's any suggestions of things that you would like me to talk about, I would love to hear from you, so you can comment. Again, I will try to put in the description the different things that I have and the information on that, so that if you suffer from any of those things, or you think that you might, or you're looking to figure out what it is that is causing your problems and you have symptoms similar to mine, then you kind of, you know, can look it up and figure out and be able to talk to your doctor about it. The medical side of it is really difficult. This is going to be a super long video, but the medical side of it is hard, because you are going to find doctors who are not going to listen, are not going to be supportive, and are not going to help you. And you can't give up on doctors. I am so sick of doctor's visits. I don't know how many times I cancel them because I just don't feel like going to another doctor's visit. I've gone to OBs. I've gone to, you know, the GIs. I've gone to allergists. I've gone to so many different ones to just like eliminate things like, okay, could it be an allergy? And then they did allergy testing and they didn't see anything. And could it be gynecologically triggered? So they go in and, you know, they did a diagnostic surgery and they didn't see anything, any reason why. So just all these little things. They want to remove my thyroid. I'm not sure that I'm going to go in that direction. I just don't know yet what I want to do. And I just want to say that if you're in that process of looking for a doctor and you're trying to figure out what's wrong, don't give up. You're going to have some bad experiences, but don't allow that to stop you from continuing to fight and figure out what is wrong, because you deserve to find answers and you deserve to be listened to. And so you've got to be your own advocate. And if you have somebody who can be that advocate as well, if you have a good support person that can be that advocate as well, that's great. Also, it's hard on, if you have a husband, a spouse, it's hard because it's hard on them to take care of you when you're sick. You miss out on a lot of things. And when you have kids, they're suffering as well. I watched somebody who made a video and I felt like, Jesus, like she's describing my life down to a T. You know, your kids leave to go somewhere and you can't go, and the guilt you feel. The kids, you know, they change because they know you're sick now, and, you know, they worry about you. And I don't know, it's just, you can't feed them. You can't cook dinner. You don't have energy, but you don't really have a reason why you don't have energy. It's just a never ending battle in your head. And I can only say that there are going to be times when you may have no one but yourself, and you have to somehow find your strength in that, because you don't have that. And some people will turn to maybe, I don't know, maybe some will turn to God. Some will turn to religion, you know, whatever their religion might be. Some will turn to I don't know, just all different kinds of things. We wouldn't want you to turn to something that would be negative for you. But you need to find the strength wherever you can to pick yourself back up and move. And one thing I'm learning, as far as like when the person that is there who takes care of you, who is living life with you, you have to sometimes push yourself to keep them strong. Sometimes you have to push yourself to be strong for them. Not all the time, but sometimes. When you see them starting to break down, sometimes it's just one day that they're just breaking down. And just that one day, if you can push yourself a little bit, and I don't mean do things that you can't handle. I just mean pushing yourself a little bit, maybe instead of laying in bed, laying next to them on the couch. Instead of, I don't know, instead of staying in your pajamas, putting some clothes on, maybe putting a little bit of makeup on, maybe trying to order a meal, cook a meal. If you can't cook a meal, like eating with them, even if you don't eat, just sitting there with them at dinner. So just little things that you can do, finding ways to make them feel stronger and make them feel like you're there and that you love them and that you appreciate them. And that just helps keep them strong, because what they're going through is hard as well. I know we're all suffering, and when you're the actual one dealing with it, sometimes you get to this selfish place. And yes, you're the only one that can take care of you to a degree. You know your limitations, but they do need something in order to continue supporting you. And so sometimes you have to take a step back and give what they need. And that's just my little thing that I've learned, and that kind of what I would suggest to you is that you try to give when you can. And again, I don't mean giving things that you can't do. Just try to find things that you can do. Small things, whatever they might be. Just finding what those are. Special things that make that person feel special, whoever they are, that helps you. Sometimes you're not going to have, no matter what you do, you're not going to have that good, strong support person. And that's where it really gets difficult, and that's where your strength really has to come in, and that it is hard. So hopefully my videos you'll at least be able to follow along. Maybe you'll be able to do the same thing, look at your own, maybe it'll inspire you to kind of like keep your own food diary or food vlog, whatever it is. I hope that it helps you guys. So all that being said, 24 minutes later, I just wanted to let you know why I'm starting this and a little bit about me, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I am uploading my first day food vlog and how I'm feeling. And I will keep you guys updated. You guys continue please watching. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be made aware of my videos as they come up. I will try to post as often as possible, whether it may not be every day, but it'll cover every day if I can. So say I upload Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it'll cover Monday, Mondays will cover the weekend. Wednesday will cover Monday, Tuesday. I'll try. That is one area that I still will have to figure out how I'm going to do that and what works best as far as uploading goes. So that's it for me for the video today. I will, just go check out my video for the first day of the vlog and see how I'm doing. And that's it. I will talk to you guys again in my next video. Bye.